Alrighty, and we're live. How's it going, Stephen?
Awesome. How are you, Matt?
Another great day down here in the sunny North Carolina for me. So I'm out of the snow for a bit. How's it up there?
Definitely not out of the snow. Just jumped in my truck this morning. It was a warm 9 degrees. It's sunny out now, which is nice, but it's definitely not as warm as it is by you.
Yeah, well, thanks for joining us, everyone. To give us a little bit of more of an introduction, we jumped into it a little bit, but my name is Matthew Fontana, and I am the application engineer for Swift Solutions, and we are joined by Stephen Waringa today.
Hi, I'm Stephen Waringa, president at Swift Solutions. I guess let's just jump into a little bit of background to what's leading up into today. This is Matt and I's third official webinar with Swift Solutions, so we're young to the process, but thanks for checking it out. Like Matt said, the first webinar that we did, which is on our website, is SolidWorks Data Management for Small Businesses. Second one that we did is CAD optimization with 3DEXPERIENCE, and then today we're going to be talking about SolidWorks PDM and ENOVIA. Some of the things that kind of led to these topics are a little bit into the history of Matt and I and myself personally. So I have been a SolidWorks user since about 2006, really heavily in new product development engineering, utilizing SolidWorks throughout the years, and actually started an engineering firm in 2013 where we leveraged the SolidWorks tool set for our clients around Michigan and across the entire U.S. So really this kind of topics and things that we're talking about today, we're pulling from that history, being engineers, business owners, of utilizing SolidWorks tools, and maybe some of the issues or things that we've run into in the past and what we're excited about in the future with 3DEXPERIENCE.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a little bit of a comparison for you today. A lot of you may have heard of SolidWorks PDM, and some of you may have also heard of ENOVIA, both Dassault Systems brands. SolidWorks PDM is known for its compatibility with SolidWorks, and now ENOVIA is taking to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, which I'm sure you're all hearing more and more about with 3DEXPERIENCE World coming up, which hopefully you're all signed up for, and you're going to these sessions over the next few days.
Hey, Matt, if we're not signed up for 3DEXPERIENCE World or it's past, where do we go?
Good question.
Yeah, SolidWorks website. We also have some information. Follow us on our social pages too. We're pushing some 3DEXPERIENCE World content, and also opportunities to get VIP codes on our website, and also social media pages mostly is where you're going to find that.
Alrighty. So if anybody can't find it, head to Stephen and he'll be able to guide you to those 3DEXPERIENCE sessions. They will be recording those if you missed it, and they will be available after the fact as well. So it's a great opportunity. People can't be there live, but they will be still putting out a lot of great information and great sessions. So first up, we're going to take a look at SolidWorks PDM. Stephen's going to talk a little bit more about this in depth. He has we both have personal experience using this with Perception Engineering, Stephen's other company. So we're going to take a look at what SolidWorks PDM is capable of, as well as the implementation needed when utilizing such a tool.
Yeah, so like Matt mentioned, at Perception Engineering, which is the contract engineering firm that I talked about, that we've been running for just almost 8 years now. We have implemented SolidWorks PDM and gone through that process. That implementation was driven from some pain points that we experienced with utilizing just network drives, and issues with people over-saving each other's files and not having the rev control and the actual ability to maintain the file structure that we wanted to. So we implemented PDM standard, which, kind of getting into the basics here, talked about, you guys already probably know what SolidWorks is, but it's an amazing CAD tool, very powerful, able to do the CAD side of things, but there was something more needed once we jumped into actually managing our data. And we were noticing that our team was spending a lot of time just doing things like that aren't value add to the project, right? They're going in and saving files. They're going in trying to figure out where their past file was saved. They're overwriting each other's files. it's then they're having to recreate those models that they had created in the past. It turned into a lot of lost time that they're not actually spending in the SolidWorks tool, creating new engineered projects. So that was part of the thing that helped us drive towards PDM standard. But there's PDM stands for Product Data Management, and is exactly what it sounds like. You're managing your project files. What I liked about PDM as we got into it was that it was basically an engineer-friendly Windows file structure. So it's very easy to get the team up and running. It's a similar Windows File Explorer that they're used to, but there's some added benefits to it, which we'll dig into in a little bit. One of the things that we ran into, and also I hear time and time again with customers, both for Swift Solutions and Perception Engineering, is when we ask, like, are you utilizing PDM? No, but we're going to. No, but we're going to. We're going to get into some. We're currently just using our network storage, but we're going to. And then that happens year after year after year because they're not really sure potentially what that next step is, how much of a disruption that's going to be to their process. So really, the biggest reason companies have not implemented a data management tool is just that hurdle in training. There's concerns behind that. So digging a little bit deeper into SolidWorks PDM standard and what that is all about. So it's more or less the package for SolidWorks PDM that comes in with SolidWorks Professional and also SolidWorks Premium. So the only people that can really access your PDM files then once they're in PDM is going to be the people with PDM access. Some of the nice features, and we're going to dig into the features specifically later, but some of the features that come with PDM standard are, obviously file management, right? So you have your file Windows Explorer where you're dropping in, you're saving your files, and gives you the ability to check in and check out files, maintain revisions. So when you check that file back in, you can up that revision. And give the ability to also allow access to certain people and other people not have access to it. One thing from a setup, which we'll dig into later too, you have to be running this on a Windows server with SQL. That brings us to a quick summary of SolidWorks PDM Professional. Now, so the interface between PDM Standard and PDM Professional is very similar, but PDM Professional is going to give you significantly more customization, but you can simply upgrade from PDM Standard to PDM Professional. So if you've already implemented PDM Standard, you want to move up to PDM Professional. I mean, that process, that training, there's going to be additional customization and a lot more you can do with it, but the transition isn't quite as difficult as one might think. So if you decide that you want to start with a PDM and you want to just get started with PDM Professional or PDM Standard and then grow into PDM Professional, that is something that you can do. So there's you got multi-site capabilities, ECO control, BOM control, ERP integrations. There's, like I said, advanced customization. Well, let's just jump into the matrix. There's so much that you can do with PDM Professional and PDM Standard.
One quick question: before converting over, is there any kind of difference or savings if someone was to say? Is there any difference if someone was to go from no PDM to PDM Professional than someone going from Standard to PDM Professional, other than already having the infrastructure, or is it just a matter of buying the license and switching it over?
So I think you hit on a key point when you said already having the infrastructure, because I think a big part of that's going to be your startup IT cost and your setting up your workflows and really the integrations of getting logged into a PDM service. So what you're going to need to do, like I said, with PDM Standard, you have the access to it. If you have SolidWorks Premium or SolidWorks Professional, you might not know you have access to it. Mm-hmm. But what you're going to have to do is purchase the licensing for SolidWorks Professional. So that's going to be the added cost there. And then the added additional workflows and additional features that you want to get customized and set up for your specific business. Yeah. There's going to be some time in there.
And someone with SolidWorks standard could buy PDM. They just don't have it included with their normal license.
Oh yeah, yep, definitely. So now, taking a look at this matrix, so there's, as you can see, just from the level of X's on each category, there's a lot that comes with SolidWorks Professional, and there's still some good value that comes with PDM Standard as well. I mean, you got design, revision management, you got secure vaulting, revision control. You got CAD previews. So I mentioned it's kind of like the Windows File Explorer, except for you have that preview window, which is pretty amazing. Now, some of the differences between standard and professional, you'll notice right away when looking at that preview window, because with standard you can preview the CAD files, but you can't preview some of the other project files that you want to include, potentially Word documents and things like that, which you can do with SolidWorks Professional. One of the big things that I hear about why companies want to jump into SolidWorks Professional over SolidWorks PDM Professional over SolidWorks PDM Standard is going to be the multi-site, the ability to have remote access down there, third from the bottom, and the ability to let your suppliers jump into your vault. That setup is a lot simpler than having to do some type of VPN access. It's really one of the big points that I've been hearing about why people like to go from PDM Standard to PDM Professional. In addition to the scalability and the ways of doing some of the other workflows. I mean, you're limited with the number of workflows and the number of states that you can have with PDM Standard, where PDM Professional gives you unlimited, right? So if you want to be doing parallel workflows and validations and have different people signing off on different processes of the project, and you need that type of customization within your business, you need to be looking at PDM Pro over PDM Standard for sure. If you're just looking for doing like revision control and having that ability not to have potential renaming issues, jump into PDM Standard. Another nice thing with PDM Pro, which it's just a personal thing that I like, is you can do more like the file structure templates. So when you're creating a new customer or new folder structure, you can do some type of, you can copy the templates and have that all pre-laid out, where you can't do some of that stuff with PDM Standard. So there's just so much to PDM Pro that really could have a major impact on your business. And that kind of drives us into some of the costing things with the differences. I know that we've talked a lot about the features, but obviously PDM Standard comes with SolidWorks Professional and Premium, but SolidWorks Professional, you have the annual subscription and you have permanent licenses. So we have some of the pricing there, but now without spending too much time on it, there's also an ROI calculator on SolidWorks website, where you can kind of go to and dig into how much that return on investment is going to be for your business, and we'll give that link a little bit later. Now, some things to think about in addition to just the cost of PDM Professional or getting a SolidWorks Professional or Premium license is some of the infrastructure costs. So I know when we implemented even PDM Standard at Perception Engineering, we had to go through and purchase a server and then get that integrated into our workflow and into our business. We were north of $10,000 by the end of that investment, which was really easy to do, and we went with some very cost-effective things that now even 3 years later, we're looking at upgrading, right? So you have the IT implementation, you have the cost of having, outside IT service if you don't have your internal IT that's able to do that. And then you have to go through and either hire a company to come in and integrate PDM, or you have to invest the time into it. I mean, we spent 100 plus hours implementing PDM Standard at Perception Engineering, and that's without going through and doing a lot of the custom workflows, which we've kind of looked into and looking at developing up more in the future. But there's just a lot of time that can go into this, but it's super powerful. So again, I would recommend taking a look at the ROI calculator, which I think we have a link for. Is that on the next slide here, Matt? Yeah, so if you go to solidworks.com products and then SolidWorks PDM, you'll notice that there is a PDM ROI calculator on that page. So some of the things that they'll ask for once you jump over to that ROI calculator are things like your location and the number of development projects that you have going on. So I think and that's a really great resource as you're thinking about, hey, is PDM Pro or PDM Standard something that I can really justify the cost to? Maybe you're a designer or an engineer that gets frustrated with these things, but management doesn't really see the pain point quite as much. You can justify some of that cost and pass it up. Again, these are some of the things that you'll see once you jump to solidworks.com that will really help you get a better handle on the ROI, so the return on investment of jumping over into PDM, in addition to just, the stress management. I mean, yeah. I've been there with, oh no, I just overwrote a file that I spent an entire day. Like, you can't ever make up that time. I don't care how many dollar signs you put behind it. Like, I just lost 8 hours of my life or more, right? Which time is important, and it's really hard to put a dollar value next to it, which the ROI calculator tries to do. But what it doesn't incorporate is you just lost a day of your life, which you could potentially have saved with utilizing a PDM or a PLM type solution.
Yeah, well, I know from my personal experience utilizing it, my favorite features, which come with the standard, it's just the fact that checking out and check in, check out kind of system to make sure that you're not overwriting someone else's files, or you're not working on the file at the same time and you both try to save and overwrite, or the rollback feature. So if you realize that you needed to go back to a certain version, having that history is huge, and being able to save time rather than having to try to go back and manually revert things that you might not have needed.
Yeah, and one of the big things reason that we're talking about PDM Standard, PDM Pro, and ENOVIA all in this conversation too is because we realize that it's not a like one solution is the best fit for everyone. There's certain companies that are a great fit for SolidWorks PDM Standard. There's certain companies that just have to have SolidWorks PDM Pro, and Standard is not going to work for them. And then there's other ones that are just going to be blown away by the process and the impact that ENOVIA is going to have on their business. So each of those three are potential different fits for different companies, and it's not one is the best solution for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Which brings us to the ENOVIA section. I'm going to be taking over and talking a little bit about ENOVIA. Where specifically ENOVIA existed prior to 3DEXPERIENCE platform, but is now the tools are being used on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So we're specifically going to be talking about the utilization of primarily the Collaborative Industry Innovator, which will bring you the base tools needed to manage your data when utilizing the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. So its main functions are safely storing your data, and it's stored on the cloud, so you're able to access that data from anywhere on any device. You can also manage the lifecycle and revision control. You can automate your revision control with the use of change management, change actions. You can track your issues and make sure that they're resolved by assigning them to the appropriate team members on the project. And it's the Collaborative Industry Innovator doesn't have the only set of ENOVIA tools on the platform. There are a lot more features available, such as Project Planner, that go much more in depth to the project management. But the Collaborative Industry Innovator is where you'd start and get that basic functionality to be sure that your data can be managed on the platform in the first place. So this matrix here is mostly the same features with some added to the PDM one that was shown earlier. And you can just see at a quick glance that there's some gaps that both PDM, SolidWorks PDM Professional and ENOVIA will take the standard out of the water, but there's some gaps where ENOVIA can fill for PDM and PDM can fill for ENOVIA. And some of the major ones we see come down to ENOVIA has a little bit more capabilities in terms of creating dashboards and reports and user tasks, assigning those tasks out and making sure it includes a little bit more project management right off the bat, where you can go much further in depth, but right off the bat you get some of those tools with the ENOVIA tools on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform. And then SolidWorks PDM has some advantages in terms of really gets down into configuration. So if you're getting really specific workflows and everything, very enterprise level processes where you need to have the same thing happen every time, and very in-depth customizations, that's where PDM Professional might have an edge depending on how complex those processes really are. So these next...
Now, on that matrix, Matt, are there any limitations to number of users that can be involved, or are they both unlimited?
So the ENOVIA tools on the 3DEXPERIENCE platform is a named user basis. So each person has a license and they have a login, and then there's platform administrators and they can control what data they have access to. So it's not just that somebody gets access to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform and they have free range to access whatever data they want. They have access to the 3DEXPERIENCE platform, and that can be controlled from an admin side. But there is no limit in terms of how many can be added to the platform. You can just keep adding accounts and accounts. You can speak a little bit more on that end for the PDM in terms of you buy the one license. How does the user go?
Yeah, similar scenario, except for that we flip back to, if we flip back to the pricing slide, which we're not going to do, but there is different levels of packages pretty much that you can purchase for a PDM Professional. One thing to think about for a PDM Standard, and we ran into this at Perception Engineering, there's no like limit to the number of people that you can put on it. However, if you have 5 engineers, you get 5 SolidWorks or PDM Standard licenses. However, maybe you have management, marketing, or other people on the team that want to have access to it, just because you need more than 5. So you would have to purchase viewer license or whatever additional to the 5 that you had that came with Professional and came with Premium.
Yeah, and there's another thing to mention on that note is if you were to buy an offer, like a 3DEXPERIENCE SolidWorks offer, for example, the ENOVIA tools, the set of tools comes with that. So you don't have to have SolidWorks to necessarily have it, but you can get it with an offer included, and then you can purchase more individual ones if it would be parallel, closer to like a contributor or viewer PDM license, if you're at all familiar with that, where you don't necessarily need the 100% of the SolidWorks modeling and everything, but you're still able to access that data, manage the revision control, everything like that. So the next few slides, I'm just going to show a couple of pictures of the actual 3DEXPERIENCE platform. And this picture here is a dashboard, and you can see there's communities on the left where you can have conversations. You can see the data up in the top right. That's a filtered out data, so you can have specific parts that you always can access quickly. You have online viewer that you can view all your CAD models online, and that's not just users or Collaborative Industry Innovators. You can share that data externally and get people to use the online viewer regardless if they have a Collaborative Industry Innovator license or not.
So I would just need to share a link. So for example, Perception Engineering, I'm working on a design, working on a project. If I want to share that data, what would I, with a user that doesn't even have access to SolidWorks, what all would I need to do?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different paths we can get, and I won't get too far into the weeds here. And if you really want to discuss this more, we can set up a call and have a much more in-depth description. But basically, there's 2 ways that you can save data on the platform. There's the 3D drive route, and then there's the 3D space route. The 3D drive route will allow you to just take a link and share it with somebody, and they will automatically have access to either view it online or download it themselves. You don't have to do anything past that. But the 3D space route, that's like a protected database that will allow your data to be managed with revision control and everything. In that sense, then you would need to invite someone as a user to your platform with a Collaborative Industry Innovator license. And you can control, not only can you control what data they view, you can control what permissions they have with the data they can view. So you can just have them have read-only access, say if it was a supplier or something that needed access to your data.
That's awesome.
Not only can you collaborate, you can also manage your data. So like I mentioned up in the top left there, we have 3D space. That's where you'd have like your database of parts. 3D Drive isn't on this page specifically, but you can also, down at the bottom, you see life cycle stage, so you can manage whether something's released or in work, and once it's released, you can't make any changes until you update the revision, and that will keep people from accidentally making changes to a released part, and that will really keep your history intact as well. You can also review. So here we see that somebody is making some markups. So it's what's called 3D markup. You can take your models, and this is all on the cloud. So you can do this on an iPad, phone even, and you can just pan around, make your markups, and you can save them off. It's almost like a PowerPoint, but with CAD. And then you can send that markup to someone, and they can just click through, and it'll automatically pan to the views you were at when you made the markup, and it'll show the text or drawing or whatever you put on there. And you can even create actions and tasks directly from this. So if it's an issue, you can circle up the issue, mark it up, and assign it to somebody to resolve. Which leads us to the resolve side of things. This is where I just mentioned you can have those issues. There's a number of ways you can make issues. You can also just go and directly create a new issue and assign a part to it, or you can pan around in the 3D model and just put a marker on it. And this is a great way to keep track of your projects and where they stand. So if you're keeping track of your issues through here and then you think you're ready for production, you can just go to that model one last time and make sure that there's no outstanding issues that were never resolved, because it's oh so easy to think that you made all of the changes and then send it off to have your, say your injection molding mold made, and then you just wasted thousands of dollars when you realize that you forgot to make a small change. Now let's get down to the costs a little bit. I'll go a little bit more in depth on the costing side of things, as it's a named user basis. Like I mentioned, each person would have a license, and some of the basic functionality is what's called the Collaborative Business Innovator. Again, if we get on a call, we can go much more in depth. I won't waste the whole time going into that, but that is $450 a year per person, and then the Collaborative Industry Innovator is $546 a year per person. And what that breaks down to is 25 gigabytes of data on the cloud per person, and you can purchase more in addition to that. So it's not like you're hard capped at that and you can't go past it. That's just what comes with this price, and more is available. Yearly price as well. There's also if you only needed it for, you can do quarterly. So say you had someone that just needed access to your data for a few months, then you can get a quarterly license and just get them access for that short amount of time.
That's what I love about this. It's this model. It's so simple. The named user, the pricing structure, like I love that scalability.
So I did some estimations. This is just a really general, broad breakdown, just to kind of put it in a picture that is a lot easier to see. So basically, if you're able to save 8 minutes a day with the efficiency of the tools of managing your data, it will pay off really quickly. And it's very easy to make up 8 minutes a day with good collaboration, good management of your data. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like every single day, but if you save one mistake that loses a lot of time, that'll make it up right then and there. So to even put the picture further in your head, I broke down some items, some things more expensive than $3.79. First up, we have a Grande. Forgive me if I mispronounce that. I've never ordered
Coffee
one.
drinker there, man, obviously.
I don't know if I've ever ordered
Grande.
anything from Starbucks, but Grande Starbucks Cafe Mocha is $4.15. McDonald's
Well,
Big Mac.
if you're utilizing ENOVIA Works more often, then you could get some more Grande coffees.
Yeah. I'll show you how quickly in the next one how much that could make up really fast. McDonald's Big Mac sandwich only, $3.99. Accidentally deleting project data worth 500 hours worth of work, priceless.
Well, not only that, having to answer to upper management as far as what happened when you deleted that 500 hours worth of work and looking for a new job, right?
After you delete that 500 hours worth of work, you're not going to be getting any Grande Starbucks Cafe Mochas for a while.
Absolutely not.
So that actually comes down. I just took the hourly rate from the last slide, and it comes down to around $14,230. And if you don't have any kind of backup and you accidentally delete data that wasn't meant to be deleted, there's no way to get that back. There's no cloud backup or server backup if your company doesn't implement that kind of system. So and it's not just the value of the data being lost. I mean, you have to consider the opportunity cost of the time you lost as well, because now you have to determine as a company, are you going to recreate that data? And if you recreate that data, then that someone is now tied up recreating data that you already had and lost, and now they're not able to put their time into creating new data that could have been making money as well. So that brings us to asking yourself the question, do you need any kind of PDM system? And when I say PDM, I don't necessarily mean SOLIDWORKS PDM, but product data management system. And if so, which one is best for you? So we're going to break down some of the points here. Stephen, if you want to take some of the PDM side of things first, and then we'll jump over into the ENOVIA, and then we'll talk about kind of where they match up.
Yeah, definitely. So when we're looking at PDM versus the ENOVIA side of things, we got a clear win when it comes to scalability, kind of on the PDM Pro side. More customization available for enterprise with the standard process. Really, when you're jumping into PDM Pro, if you want some of that high customization, customizability, the ability you have some needs with your process that really require certain workflows. The PDM Professional is the way to go. From a when you jump into some of the ties there, why don't you jump into that one, Matt?
Yeah, so just to put a point on that last point, the terms of ENOVIA, like we mentioned, doesn't have a limit in how many users you can have. But say if you have enterprise processes that are just set in stone already, the ENOVIA processes are really efficient, and you are able to customize a lot of the processes to some aspect, but there is some distinction between the amount that you can customize. So if you're flexible, especially if you are flexible in terms of we're willing to work with this tool if it's efficient and we can shift our processes a little bit if it doesn't quite line up automatically, then ENOVIA is customizable to some aspect. It's not like you can't change it at all. It's just a matter of how much you're willing to shift if you have such a large enterprise that your processes are so engraved in stone. So in terms of, and then the next point for the overlap there is the revision control and history. And we mentioned aspects where they both have revision control and the history of that data. One thing that I would say on the PDM side of things is if you're not aware of how it works, you check a file out and then it does not get recorded to the PDM system until you check it back in. So if someone was on a computer, they checked a file out and then they saved the changes to their computer, even though it's saved to that computer. If that computer was to crash before they had a chance to check it in, that work is lost. Whereas ENOVIA, each time you're saving, it's saving to the cloud. So it's automatically backed up on the cloud when you save. And then jumping over to where ENOVIA might have an advantage, depending on what your processes are, is the ENOVIA is a really good out-of-the-box solution. So it's like you get a username, you sign in, and the tools are already there for you to use. In addition to being ready for you to use, you don't have to worry about setting up that infrastructure. So your entry costs are much lower to get started right away with data management. You don't have to wait until you have so much money before you can start managing your data and saving that money in the long run. And then this ties a little bit back to that checking in issue, is it's cloud-based as a default. So all of your data is cloud-based, so you don't have any chance of losing that locally. As soon as you save it to the cloud, it's now backed up to the cloud and you have that security. So to wrap up, what we'll do next is I'll be sending out a follow-up email to everyone who's watching the live premiere. And then you can feel free to reply to that email. We can schedule a call if you would like to talk about how one of these systems, which one is right for you, and we can talk about your individual processes and have a deeper conversation and make sure you find the right fit for your data management. And you can also reply with any questions you would like answered, no matter how general. We'd be happy to clear anything up that might have confused you during this presentation, or anything that you've just been wondering, or maybe something that you saw during 3D Experience World and you want to have a little bit more information about it. Feel free to come our way. Any further questions, even if it's not about this webinar, just in the future for future reference, please call us or email us with any questions. We have the phone numbers shown here. You can also head to our website, swiftsol.com, and you will find all of our contact information there as well as a contact form. You can choose the contact page and contact us through that form with any questions you may have as well. Thanks to everybody for watching. Until the next webinar.